I'm Georgia Raisman. I'm on Front Up this morning with Ken Blackshaw, an old friend and a birder. And we're going to talk about what it's like to bird on Nantucket. First off, before we can even start that, Ken, you've been coming to Nantucket like your whole life, right?
I was born here.
You were born here. You
So
really
I came
are.
here.
You're not even a Washashore.
Came here at Nantucket Cottage Hospital when it was on Westchester Street.
How great is
yes,
that?
there's a little plaque.
So
I'm just joking.
that says Ken Blackshaw was born here with birds. I'm very happy to hear that.
So I was fortunate to meet Edith Andrews in probably 1953, and she took me under her wing, which is what birders do, and started teaching me about birds, and she was very interesting. I remember looking at a sandpiper through a telescope, and she said, "Now you have to look at the leg color." And I'm thinking, good grief, I have to tell that it's a sandpiper. I have to see what shape it is in it, and they want to know what the leg color is. Yeah. And then one of them was called semi-palmated, a semi-palmated sandpiper. Well, what the heck is that? Well, it turns out the webbing in between the toes is a distinctive feature. That's something you'd never see.
So what does
except
the bird
in a
have
hand.
to pick its foot up so you can see this?
You'd never see it unless you had it in the hand, but that's when it was named.
Oh.
Somebody had, shot one.
Oh, gee.
And so that's how they named it, yeah.
So Nantucket is an especially good place for birding, is that right?
Nantucket is
migratory.
It's the last spot on the east-west highway. When you get westerly winds at this time of year, songbirds and other birds imagine being able to fly, and you're up there in the air, and it's pretty exhilarating, and you don't necessarily think about what's underneath you, and the wind is blowing. So suddenly you've moved a couple hundred miles further east without necessarily being aware of it. And you might end up over the water, which does happen. People that are in boats east of Nantucket have little songbirds, swallows, things land in their rigging, and then a lot of them make it back to land. And a lot of them, of course, get to Nantucket, see all that water, and say, what should I do now? So, but right now, this year is a particularly interesting year because we have, and I've come ready to talk about nuthatches. So I've got...
What is a nuthatch?
What is a nuthatch? This is a white-breasted nuthatch, which is a rarer bird on Nantucket than the red-breasted nuthatch, which is over here.
It doesn't have a red breast, it has a yellowish breast.
Well, people that name birds sometimes stretch definitions a bit, so... there is a reddish egret, by the way, but this is a red-breasted nuthatch. If you don't like this, you really wouldn't like the red-bellied woodpecker at all, because
it doesn't have a red breast either.
You don't really see any red on a red-bellied woodpecker. But nuthatches go down the tree, like that.
Huh.
And the white-breasted nuthatch also goes down the tree.
Wow. Now this nuthatch on the other page seemed to have a red breast.
Let's ignore those, because when you have tiny little pictures like this, it's because they don't live around here. They're very rare, yeah. But these, I heard one of these on the way in this morning.
A brown creeper.
And creepers go up the tree.
Oh, for heaven's
but
sake.
they're very nearly invisible.
Because
their
camouflage
color
is
just
fabulous.
like the bark.
Wow.
And so they kind of work their way up, and then they pull little things out of the bark and get sustenance that way. Then when they get as high as they want to go, they drop down to the bottom of the next tree, and the way they fly, it looks just like a leaf is falling.
How cool is that?
I mean, it's very ethereal. You say to yourself, was there a bird there or wasn't there?
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, is that helpful from a standpoint of avoiding a predator, that they look like a leaf? Or is it just...
Whatever works. The first one of these I found was in front of Murray's Toggery shop in probably 1954, and it was dead on the sidewalk. It had bounced into a window or something. So and it fit very nicely into my hand. And I was fascinated. You really can't see it in this picture, but the beak is very thin, and it's got a tiny little hook on the end of it. You can't see it in that picture, but in the hand, that's one of the things that impressed me. So when it's working in the bark, and it feels something, it can kind of reach down and pull it back out again.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So
they're migrating through also. I heard one on the way in. Very.
They have a distinctive sound?
But it's very subtle. It's one of those sounds that if you don't have good high frequency hearing, you won't pick it up at all.
Are there apps now that tell you what birds sound like?
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, and there are also identification apps that you could have on your phone. One is put out by Cornell. It's called Merlin.
Merlin, how good.
Yeah, how about that? And they
There are birds
they
called
start out by saying, where are you, or what part of the country are you in, and you can just touch a button and it'll pick up wherever you are right now. And how big is the bird? Pick out 3 colors that you would notice on the bird, or up to 3 colors.
So
it
narrows it down. It
Yeah,
doesn't just
what
listen
was
to
it-
it like Shazam.
What was it doing? And of course it also picks up if you're doing it like on October 26, it says, okay, you're on October 26 on Nantucket, so it's got a population of birds that might be on Nantucket. When you deal with a bird book, quite often you end up seeing a bird that should be in Texas and say, wow, that looks just like my bird, but it probably isn't.
But so there's nothing that you could just simply hold up and say and have the bird make a noise and that would say,
They're
oh yeah, that's a
working
whatever.
on that. They're working on that, but birds don't have just one call. They have songs. They have contact notes. They have scolds. There's
Warnings.
There's warnings. Yeah. Now I'm at Academy Hill now. We've got a couple feeders in front of Academy Hill, and I heard the chickadees start to do this high-pitched see, and I'm thinking to myself, that's an unusual note. And then I realized there's a Cooper's hawk flying over. And Cooper's hawk is one of those birds hawks that specialize in birds.
So he was letting everybody
The
else know.
chickadees, since that bird was there before I saw it,
It was more
but that's-
important to
but
them than it was to you.
Oh yeah, but they also kind of act as like an emergency alert thing for the other birds. Because I noticed suddenly nobody's visible. Where'd everybody go? They were all at the feeder a minute ago. Now they're not there. Oh yeah.
So do people come here just to look for birds? Do people come from off island to look for birds?
Yeah, they do. They do. And they show up on Sunday morning sometimes if they read the paper, for our Sunday
that
morning
right?
bird walk at 8 o'clock, takes off from the high school.
So there are
And-
regional birders who come out to Nantucket?
Yeah, they or sometimes even from England and places like that, yeah. So yeah. But it's not. In some cases they've come here to bird. In other cases they've come here because it's Nantucket. And oh, by the way, why don't we watch a bird while we're here? Yeah.
So you've been a birder all your life. Is this
Long
is this
time.
an activity that has been attracting young people all along, or is it one that needs to attract more young people? Or?
There are certain young people that gravitate to it and are very good at it. We've got we have Skylar Cardell on Nantucket right now, who's just 16 years old, and I think he's. If you look at the number of birds he's seen this year, I think he's probably seen 50 more species of birds on Nantucket this year than any other birder that's reporting. So
He's a sharp-eyed
he's
and interested
sharp,
young man.
he's got an excellent ear, and he's a very good student as well. So that's the thing. I mean, there's a lot of, sometimes you'll see a bird that you've never seen before, but you're ready to see that bird.
In what way?
Well, it might be a striking bird, or if you're a lister, you're always trying to get a new.
What's a lister?
Well, somebody that keeps track of the number of birds that they've seen during a year. I think my year list right now is 240 species, which is not a lot for a birder to have 240 species of birds at this point in time. At the end of the year, I normally have around 300. In North America, you can see 750 or 800 species of birds if you travel, all over North America.
750 or 800, wow.
Yeah. The Nantucket list right now, I think birds seen on Nantucket is around 370 species of birds have been seen historically on Nantucket, yeah.
So what is this Christmas list stuff that I read
Christmas
about?
bird count?
Yeah, the Christmas bird count.
Well, it's an Audubon and Cornell-sponsored program that started around 1911, I think. It was a reaction to something they called the side hunt, which was a hunting thing. People open their Christmas presents and they go out and shoot. Well, there were some people that thought, well, why don't we go out and see how many birds we can see on Christmas. So it started on Christmas Day.
So it's not for statistical purposes, or it's just for entertainment?
It has
or
grown
has
to
it-
be for statistical purposes. It's now a database that goes back on Nantucket. The first Christmas bird count, I think, was 1955. And the circle that we work in is centered on Brant Point, and it covers the whole of Nantucket. There's a separate one for Tuckanuck.
What does it mean, a circle? How does the Christmas bird count
It's
work?
a 7.5 mile 15 mile diameter circle. So all the Christmas bird counts are based on a circular pattern like that. In Florida, I've got 2 counts that I work on down there. And again, and they can be from December 15 to January 5 is the period.
So you don't have to go out on Christmas Day.
No, no. And people come from all over the Northeast to be part of the Nantucket Christmas bird count, which I think is Sunday, December 30 this year. And
why did they do that? Why not go to their own local Christmas
they do.
bird
Well,
count?
they will.
They do both?
Yeah, and they get upset if sometimes they have a conflict. Yeah, some of these people will do 5 or 10 Christmas bird counts. You know, that's what they do, you know.
So it's just sort of like a
Some of
hobby
these
or a
guys
sport or an entertainment?
Some of them are professional ornithologists that work for, you know, the museum in Boston and Mass Audubon. We have a very good birder that comes from the City University in New York on Staten Island. And birds, he lives on Tuckanuck, actually. He runs the Tuckanuck count.
And so all of this birding is done, it's become a database. And has the database taught us anything?
Well, you can see what birds are cyclical, like these nuthatches we were talking about. They are eruptive species, and they show up every 4 or 5 years. And then when they're not showing up, I mean, they become very scarce. Yeah,
yeah, that's interesting.
And you see movements north of species. You can tell some, like 2014, we had so many snowy owls here. I think there were 50 reported on the Christmas bird count. And that's a bird that non-birders will go out to see, and they're
because they're so beautiful,
affected by it, and just the presence of it. Yeah. When you see a snowy owl, and it seems like its head can turn around
pivoting,
360 degrees.
Right.
Owls have 14 vertebrae in their neck. We only have, I think, 6 or 7.
Yeah,
so
they're beautiful.
But their eyes are fixed. They can't move their eyes, so
that's why they need those.
So they have to be able to spin their head around in order to see things.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so interesting, Ken, and thank you for telling me. And I will have a great deal of respect for Christmas bird counters now that I know more.
Yeah, good.
I appreciate your coming in and telling me
You're
all this.
welcome.
Look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.